Hey guys, this is Indhu here. Hope all are fine at home. Our today's topic is going to be on Class 10 Cbse History, Nationalism in India. In this video, we are going to cover the entire revision session. So you will be knowing how to attend all your questions from Nationalism India right from section A to section E. So in all the sections, Nationalism in India chapter covers. So it has got huge amount of contribution in terms of mark distribution. So you can actually get thorough with this chapter. We'll quickly go ahead with the video. Topics to be covered for revision. First World War, Khilafat and non-cooperation, the idea of Satyagraha, Rowlatt Act, Jalanwala Massacre, Khilafat Moment, Rowlatt Satyagraha, differing stands within the movement, rebellion in countryside towards civil disobedience, Salt March, the differing stand within the movement, sense of collective belonging. So these are the topics we're going to cover in today's revision session. The effects of World War I on Indians. The war has created a new economic and political change. So there is a huge disturbance in the economic and political situation of the country during the World War I time, right from 1913 to 1918. Income tax increased, custom duties doubled, there's a crop failure, influenza epidemic, disease, and which resulted with shortage of food, accompanied by a great disaster into the country, which led to 12 to 13 million people death because of influenza epidemic virus. And not only that, there is a forced recruitment in the villages where villagers were forcefully recruited to the army and serve in World War I, which they denied to do so. So this is what you're going to write for effects of World War I on Indians. Idea of Satyagraha. As soon as Mahatma Gandhiji returned from South Africa to India in 1915, he has launched 3 Satyagrahas subsequently. Champaran, Kedah and Ahmedabad. These are the 3 places he launched Satyagraha. 1916 Champaran against oppressive plantation system. 1917 Kedah, district of Gujarat against land revenue system. And 1918 in Ahmedabad against mill workers strike. So they just demanded 35% of increase in wages and the better working condition against the mill owners. So this is what the Satyagrahas launched by Gandhiji. The Rowlatt Act. Rowlatt Act was passed by the British Imperial Council. It allows the political detention without trial for 2 years, mainly to suppress the political prisoners or political activities in India. So that is the main intention of the Rowlatt Act. Following which, Gandhiji organized Rowlatt Satyagraha against this Rowlatt Act, in which many national leaders have been arrested. Gandhiji was barred to enter into Delhi, and the government decided to clamp down all the nationalists by witnessing the outrage of the people. So this is all about Rowlatt Act and Rowlatt Satyagraha. In your examination, you may get 2 different topics. What is Rowlatt Act and what is Rowlatt Satyagraha? If they are asking about Rowlatt Act, you need to write about what is the act about. You have to write like detention of political prisoners and to curb the political activities. This is what you need to write. And if they are asking about Rowlatt Satyagraha, you need to write about the movement launched by Gandhiji, that is Rowlatt Satyagraha, right? So 2 different based question they may ask. So you need to be really careful while reading the question. Jalanwala Massacre on 13th April 1919. This particular incident took place in Amritsar, Punjab. A large crowd gathered in Jalanwala Bagh, where a few people came to protest against the government's new repressive measure, while some came to attend the annual Baishaki fair. General Dyer blocked all the exit points and opened fire on the crowd, killing hundreds. After Jalanwala Massacre, people became furious and went on strikes, clashes with police, and attacks on government buildings. Mahatma Gandhi had to call off the movement as it was turning into a violent war. As you can see in the picture, still you can find the bullet shots on the walls, and that was the open well where you can witness during the time of Jalanwala Bagh, people tried to jump into the well and escape themselves, but they died literally. So this is the event of Jalanwala Bagh, where the leaders were forced to rub their noses into the ground and they have to do salam to all the sahibs. So this is the condition of the Indians during the time of Jalanwala Bagh, which triggered the all over Indian minds to struggle against the Britishers. Khilafat Moment. Mahatma Gandhi then took up the Khilafat issue by bringing Hindus and Muslims together. The First World War ended with the defeat of Ottoman Turkey. In March 1919, a Khilafat committee was formed by Ali brothers Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali in Bombay. In September 1920, Mahatma Gandhi convinced other leaders of the need to start a non-cooperation movement in support of Khilafat as well as for Swaraj. In 1921, the non-cooperation Khilafat movement began. In this movement, various social groups participated, but the term means different things to different people. Non-cooperation movement. You will be reading this particular concept in three phases: NCM in towns, in villages, in plantation field. How it is reflected in all three places. You will be getting this particular topic in 5 mark questions for board examination. So let's just move on with the topic. The movement in the towns. Middle class started the movement and thousands of students, teachers, headmasters left government-controlled schools and colleges. Lawyers gave up their legal practices. In the economic front, the effect of non-cooperation were more dramatic. The production of Indian textile mills and handlooms went up when people started boycotting foreign goods. Bonfire was taking place. People who purchased the foreign clothes, they have got everything and put into the street corner and just burnt it, which we call it as bonfire. Even that was organized by Gandhiji. But this movement slowed down due to variety of reasons, such as khadi cloths are expensive, less Indian institutions for students and teachers to choose from. So they went back to the government schools and lawyers joined back government courts. Rebellion in countryside. In countryside, there are two major leaders who played a dominant role in spreading non-cooperation movement. The non-cooperation movement spread to countryside where peasants and tribals were developing in different parts of India. The peasant movement started against talukdars and landlords. So first you need to write about Baba Ramchandra. So under him, talukdars and landlords were opposed because they demanded high rents and a variety of other cesses. It demanded reduction of revenue, abolition of beggar. Beggar is nothing but getting work from the laborers without having any payment. So that system was abolished under Baba Ramchandra, and social boycott of oppressive landlords. Jawaharlal Nehru in June 1920 started going around the villages in Oudh to understand the grievances. In October, he, along with a few other, set up Oudh Kisan Sabha, in which Baba Ramchandra played vital role in bringing out Kisan Sabha and helping the farmers too. And he also organized Nairobi Bands and he stopped washmen and barbers to serve the Britishers. In 1921, the peasant movements were spread and the houses of talukdars and merchants were attacked. Bazaars were looted and grains boards were taken over. In the early 1920s, a militant guerrilla warfare movement started spreading in the Gudin Hills of Andhra Pradesh. The government started closing down forest areas due to which their livelihood was affected. Here is the place where Alluri Sitaram Raju played a very important role. According to that particular area, Alluri Sitaram Raju was a saint and people believed him. He is the incarnation of God. And whatever he says, they just blindly believe in them. And he just insisted people to give up drinking and wear khadi as part of non-cooperation movement, and asked people to enter into forests for their basic livelihood and grazing their cattle. Swaraj in plantation. For plantation workers in Assam, freedom meant right to move freely in and out and retaining a link with the village from which they had come. Under Inland Immigration Act of 1859, plantation workers were not permitted to leave the tea gardens without the permission of the plantation owners. After they heard of the non cooperation movement, thousands of workers left the plantation and headed home. But unfortunately, they never reached their destination and were caught by the police and brutally beaten up. Somehow, the idea of Swaraj just spread into the plantation field, and they were just raising the name of Gandhi as slogan, and they just believed that Swatantra Bharat will come soon. So that's how Swaraj spread into the plantation field. Towards civil disobedience. In February 1922, the non cooperation movement was withdrawn because Gandhi felt that it was turning violent due to the incident took place in Chauri Chaura, where 22 policemen along with the police station burnt alive. Some of the leaders wanted to participate in election to the provincial council. Swaraj Party was formed by C.R. Das and Motilal Nehru, which is going to be in your 1 mark question for board. So make a note. In the late 1920s, Indian politics again shaped because of two factors. The first effect was the worldwide economic depression, and the second effect was the falling agricultural prices. The Statutory Commission was set up to look into the functioning of the constitutional system in India and suggested changes. That's why Simon Commission was brought to India. In 1928, Simon Commission arrived in India and it was greeted by the slogan, "Go back, Simon." Why? Because there's not even single Indian member were there in the Simon Commission under the leadership of Sir John Simon, and they have come here to make changes in the Indian constitution. That is the reason why Indians have boycotted Simon Commission. In December 1929, under the presidency of Jawaharlal Nehru, Lahore Congress formalized the demand of Purna Swaraj, or complete independence. For India, it was declared that 26 January 1930 would be celebrated as Independence Day. Yes, the famous Salt March. On 31st January 1930, Mahatma Gandhi sent a letter to Viceroy Irwin stating 11 demands. Among the demands, the most stirring of all was the demand of abolition salt tax, which is consumed by rich and poor. The demands needed to be fulfilled by 11th March, or else Congress will start a civil disobedience campaign. The famous Salt March was started by Mahatma Gandhi, accompanied by 78 volunteers. The march was over 240 miles. They have planned for 24 days, each day 10 miles. And from Gandhi Ashram in Sabarmati to Gujarat coastal town of Dandi. On 6th April, he reached Dandi and ceremonially violated the law, manufacturing salt by boiling seawater. This marked the beginning of civil disobedience movement. The civil disobedience movement. The movement spread across the world and salt law was broken in different parts of the country. Foreign cloth was boycotted, peasants refused to pay revenue, and in many places forest law was violated. In April 1930, Abul Ghaffar Khan, a devout disciple of Mahatma Gandhi, was arrested. Mahatma Gandhi was arrested a month later, which led to attack in all structures that symbolized British rule. By witnessing the heroic situation, Mahatma Gandhi decided to call off the movement and entered into a pact with Irwin on 5th March 1931. Gandhi-Irwin Pact was signed in Round Table Conference in London. When the conference broke down, Mahatma Gandhi returned to India disappointed and he relaunched the civil disobedience movement. For over a year. It continued, but by 1934 it lost its momentum. How participants saw the movement. There are five different participants in the movement, right from rich peasants, poor peasants, business class people, industrial workers, and women. In which rich peasants, business class people, women took active participation in civil disobedience movement, whereas the poor peasant and the working class people were completely aloof from CDM. The Patidas of Gujarat and the Jats of UP were active in the movement. They became enthusiastic supporters of civil disobedience movement, but they were deeply disappointed when the movement was called off in 1931. So, when the movement was restarted in 1932, many of them refused to participate. The poorer peasants joined a variety of radical movements, often led to socialist and communist. The rich peasants were benefited personally because they are avoiding their land revenue taxes, right? And to organize business interests, the industrial and commercial congress in 1920 was set up, and the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry in 1927 was formed. The industrialists attacked colonial control over the Indian economy and supported the civil disobedience movement when it was first launched. They are also having a personal benefit in terms of relaxation in the custom duties and all the stuffs. Some of the industrial workers did participated in CDM in 1930 and 1932. Railway workers and dock workers were on strike only in Chota Nagpur tin mine. Other than that, the working class people participation is very minor. Another important feature of CDM is there's a large scale of women participation, but for a long time, Congress was reluctant to allow women to hold any position of authority within the organization. Limits of CDM. Dalits and Muslims were completely reluctant from CDM, right? So Dalits addressed as untouchables were not moved by the concept of Swaraj. Mahatma Gandhi used to call them as Harijans or the children of God, without whom Swaraj could not be achieved. He organized Satyagraha for the untouchables, but they were keen on the different political solution to the problem of the community. They demanded reserved seats in the educational institutions in the separate electorate. There is also a clash between B.R. Ambedkar and the Gandhiji in terms of separate electorates. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who organized the Dalits into Depressed Class Association in 1930, clashed with Mahatma Gandhi at the Second Roundtable Conference by demanding separate electorates for Dalits, which the famous Pune Pact. The Pune Pact of September 1932 gave the depressed class reserved seats in provincial and the central legislative council. After the decline of the non-cooperation Khilafat movement, Muslims felt alienated from the Congress, due to which the relation between Hindus and Muslims worsened. Muhammad Ali Jinnah was willing to give up the demand of separate electorates if Muslims were assured reserved seats in the Central Assembly and the representation in proportion to population in the Muslim dominant provinces. But the hope of resolving the issue at the All Party Conference in 1928 disappeared when M.R. Jakar of Hindu Mahasabha strongly opposed the efforts of compromise. The sense of collective belonging. Nationalism spread when people begin to believe that they are all part of the same nation. History and fictions, folklore and songs, popular prints and symbols all played a part of making nationalism. Finally, in the 20th century, the identity of India came to be visually associated with the image of Bharat Mata. Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay created the image, and in 1870s he wrote Vande Mataram as a hymn to the motherland. Rabindranath Tagore painted his famous image of Bharat Mata portrayed as an aesthetic figure. She is calm, composed, divine and spiritual. In late 19th century, nationalists began recording folk tales sung by bards, and they toured villages to gather folk songs and legends. During Swadeshi movement in Bengal, a tricolor flag was designed which had 8 lotus representing 8 provinces of the British India and a crescent moon representing Hindus and Muslims. By 1921, Gandhiji designed the Swaraj flag, a tricolor, and had a spinning wheel in the center representing the Gandhian ideal of self-help. So in this particular topic, you will be getting mostly 1 mark question, subjective type question, or the recently added 4 mark question, right? So you can prepare accordingly. Following which we'll be learning about the sample questions. I've just given few sample questions. Who among the following organized the Dalits into depressed class association? Like MCQs. Gandhi, Alluri Sitaram Raju, Kanshiram B.R. Ambedkar. Likewise, you can see this. So I have given few questions of MCQs. And here comes the important phase of the video, revision questions for nationalism in India. I've given few questions here. These are the most repeated question in the board examination, so you can quickly go through with this. Explain the idea of Satyagraha according to Gandhiji. Explain the effects of worldwide economic depression on India towards late 1920s. Explain any 3 facts about the new economic situation created in India by the First World War. How did the plantation workers under the idea of Swaraj? Explain. Explain the circumstances under the Gandhiji decided to call off civil disobedience movement in 1931. Explain the reaction of India people against the Rowlatt Act passed during Imperial Legislative Council in 1919. How had the World War I created a new economic situation in India? Explain with 3 examples. Why did Gandhiji decided to launch a nationwide Satyagraha against the proposed Rowlatt Act 1919? How was it organized? Explain. Which were the 2 types of demands mentioned by Gandhiji in his letter to Viceroy Irwin on 31st January 1930? Why was abolition of salt tax most stirring demand? Explain. Explain any 3 problems faced by the peasants of Oudh. Next set of questions. Explain any 3 reasons for the lukewarm response of some Muslim organization to CDM. Explain any 3 effects of non-cooperation movement on the economy of India. How did the rich peasants and women take part in CDM? Why did non-cooperation movement gradually slow down in cities? Explain any 3 reasons. Describe the role of peasants in Oudh in non-cooperation movement. Describe any 3 major problems faced by the peasants of Oudh in the days of non-cooperation movement. How did the Salt March become an effective tool to resistance against colonialism? Explain. The Congress was reluctant to include the demand of industrial workers in its program of struggle. Analyze the reason. Why did the non-cooperation movement gradually slow down in the cities? Explain. Describe the main feature of Pune Pact. Next set of question. Describe the spread of non-cooperation movement in countryside. The next question is on the plantation workers in Assam. Next, how did cultural processes help in creating a sense of collective belonging in India? Explain. Evaluate the contribution of folklore, songs, popular prints, etc. in shaping the nationalism during freedom struggle. Next, explain any 5 major problems posed by World War I. How did different social groups conceive the idea of non-cooperation? Explain with examples. 27th. How did the CDM come into force in various parts of the country? Explain with examples. Why did Gandhiji started CDM? Explain any 4 features of CDM. Explain with examples the role of industrialists in the freedom struggle of India. The last revision question, 30th question. How did people belonging to different communications, regions or language develop a sense of collective belonging? Explain with examples. Right? So these are the 30 important questions which I have gathered for board examination revision. Make sure you could able to write all these questions with proper bulletin points and highlighting the keywords. And if it is done, the entire chapter is done. Right? Then coming to the map revision, I have already given a separate video for map revision. Anyways, I'll just quickly go on with the revision. The place where Indian National Congress session was held in December 1920 in Nagpur. The place where International Congress session was held in September 1920. Calcutta 1927 Madras, and cotton mill workers strike Ahmedabad, peasant Satyagraha Keda, Indigo rebellion Champaran, Jalanwala Massacre Amritsar, Salt March Dandi, Non-Cooperation Call of Chowri Chowra. So only 9 places you will be getting for your board examination. Get thorough with the map. So nationalism in India is the only chapter where you will be getting question in all the sections, right from A to E, right? So get thorough with all the chapter, entire concepts, and just practice as many as question possible, right? So that is all about today's video. Thank you so much.